Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Latasha and I am a full-time freelancer. And today I'm gonna be sharing every single job I've ever had, not just for selfish memory lane type reasons, but because I hear from my viewers all the time that they don't feel like they have the right experience to become a freelancer. And I want to show you that every single little job I've ever had has helped prepare me in some way for freelance life. But first, I want to take a second to introduce today's sponsor, About.us. .us is the web address of choice for anyone with a dream to chase, an idea to share, a cause to champion, or a business to promote. So if you're looking for a domain that is uniquely you, look no further than .us. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, a .us web address is the place to share your story online. I'm personally working on a portfolio site specifically highlighting travel, availability, and work that I do here in the States. My work is international and I do have clients all over the globe, which is amazing, but US specific content is going to go here. I love having the option of a .us web address because US is memorable. .us is short, distinctive, and easy to remember, and it has a wide range of names available that capture your idea, your business, or your cause. And US is also unique. .us helps you stand out from the crowd by giving you a web address that's as unique as your brand. So definitely check out the link down below to learn more about .us and to support the channel and today's sponsor, particularly if you're building a freelance portfolio website or business website or anything of that nature. So let's hop into the video. Okay, so I got my first job when I was 15, my first official job when I was 15. It was at an Italian restaurant. It was kind of like a mid-range Italian restaurant. It was a nicer restaurant. It wasn't like a Pizza Hut or an Olive Garden, but it wasn't like a white shirt, fancy schmancy restaurant. So I got the job because it was in my neighborhood and it was really the only place that would hire me. Our rule was that if we wanted to get a car, we had to pay for all the stuff that came along with the car. So like the insurance, the titles, the gas, the maintenance. So I feel like that work ethic was instilled in me pretty early on and I pretty much took the first job that I could get. So I wish I had more positive things to say about this experience, but truth be told, it was actually a very, very toxic first work experience. And it wasn't just, it was my first job, so I hated it. No, I'm not gonna totally put them on blast, but I witnessed a lot of weird things, a lot of Me Too moments. There was a lot wrong, okay? The crazy thing is that I did a really good job. I got promoted pretty much right away. I started as a dishwasher, I got promoted to a hostess almost right away. They loved me. I did an amazing job. But the environment was not a fit. It was very toxic. And that is something that I still take with me today because as a freelancer, I think sometimes we think, oh, I'm working for myself, it's gonna be perfect, but no, you still have clients. And sometimes, unfortunately, you're gonna experience some of those same things with the client and you have to know when to be able to walk away. I've walked away from freelance contracts because they said something inappropriate to me or because I felt threatened in some way without getting paid. And I've just taken the L on it. You know what I mean? So that was definitely a learning experience there. I only worked there for 6 months or something. I did what I needed to do to get a little bit of job experience under my belt to be able to move on to something better, which is a similar thing as what a portfolio project would be for a freelancer. After I left that restaurant, I got a job at a clothing store. And some of you guys may remember it, maybe not. It was called Dots. It doesn't exist anymore, but it's a chain fast fashion place. I actually worked at Dots on and off for 6 years. I think that's the longest job I've ever had. So I got promoted over the years to a senior sales associate and then an assistant manager. And so I can't even begin to explain everything that I learned there because it truly was a huge part of my life. And I'm still so grateful that I had that experience. I worked in multiple different locations. I worked in Portage, Michigan, Canton, Michigan, Washington, DC. Obviously, I learned about retail in general. So I really loved merchandising. I still do. Some days around holiday time, I'm still I kind of want to get a part-time job at the mall just doing windows just because it's fun. I really, really miss doing that. And I also learned customer service, which is so important and it is something that a lot of freelancers skip out on. You can be the most skilled graphic designer or social media manager or video creator out there ever, but if you don't know how to speak to your clients, if you don't know how to handle emails, if you don't know how to handle a disgruntled customer, you are going to have a really hard time being good at this job. I have some experiences at this job and just at all the other jobs I've worked at. If you have never worked in customer service and you want to be a freelancer, I'm serious, you may want to. Maybe not now since there's a pandemic going on, but honestly, getting a job at Starbucks or getting a job at a store while you're building your freelance business is not a bad idea. One, because it gives you a little bit of income to work with, and two, because you're going to learn customer service and it's so important. Another thing that I learned at Dots was just leadership in general. I learned how to build a team. I did a lot of hiring, which I found out I was really passionate about, a lot of training, which I found out I was also very passionate about and very good at. And I even traveled for the first time, which was pretty cool. I got to go to Nashville to help open a store. I got to go to Fort Wayne, Indiana to open a store. I got to go to Muskegon, which was like not very exciting, but Muskegon, Michigan, to help them out for a few days. So it was really cool to get those experiences. Also, can we not judge my hair in this video? I haven't been to a salon in 4 months and it's humid, so just, yeah. Then after that, I got a job at Victoria's Secret. It was a part-time management job. I wanted a part-time job so I could go to school full-time. And I know that VS, the brand, has a little bit of controversy going on nowadays, so I'm not speaking about anything in the moment, but when I worked there, it was truly an amazing company to work for. I felt like they paid me fairly. I felt like the team that I worked with was like, I miss them still to this day. I think about the fun that we had and it was awesome. They had really good training programs. And I don't know, I feel like I was treated really fairly there. Like I feel like people respected me in the company and they gave me a lot of good opportunities and things like that. So one of the biggest things that I learned there, in addition to building a team and continuing to work on training, because I was in a leadership position, I actually moved into a staffing position. So I primarily did hiring and development and coaching and training and stuff, but I also learned how to sell. So I worked in, I don't think any of them exist anymore, but I worked in a Victoria's Secret beauty store. I ended up going to the lingerie store, but I started out in the beauty store. So we sold fragrance and it was a very like boutique style store. It's not like the big Victoria's Secret stores that you probably are envisioning in your head. It's like a very small store. We would sometimes get like 10 customers in a day. Like I would work an 8-hour shift and we would get like 10 customers in the whole day. And so you have to make the most out of every single customer that comes in. If you get 10 people that come in, you cannot have anybody leave empty-handed. And the products were a little bit pricier. You know, I was selling eau de parfum, which, you know, a bottle of that could be $80. So I had to learn the art of like concierge type selling. And I would get men coming in, you know, shopping for their wives, like being completely clueless. I actually loved when the men came in because they were like fun to talk to and often would just kind of like buy whatever you recommended because they trust your opinion, right? And I learned how powerful that is to be able to develop those relationships and help guide people's journey in that way. So after VS, I went to a bridal shop, which I mentioned in a video on my second channel. I learned some stuff. Mostly I learned about the bridal industry, which I had no clue about. So I feel very like educated on that now. Not that I really use that for freelancing, but I guess maybe if I wanted to work for some type of a bridal company or something like that, as a freelancer, I would have that industry knowledge. I'm also getting married someday whenever this pandemic is over. So it is coming in handy, some of the things, the timelines and stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of what I learned there. I think I realized after a few months that it was not for me and I moved on. So then I got a job at a store called Maurice's. It's another like fast fashion retailer. I would say that it was pretty similar to like my work at VS and at Dots. But in terms of getting the job, I will say that I still use this in my freelancing is I actually got that job by networking. Like I had a previous manager, she was now the store manager of this Maurice's store. And I think I saw her posting on Facebook or LinkedIn or something like that. So I think it's just very important to keep those relationships and not burn bridges. I still am in contact with all of these people really who I worked with, at least the ones from the positive job experiences. And I know that if I needed a job at any of these companies, they would do their best to help me out. And I think that's really powerful and important. And same thing for freelancing. Keep in touch with your previous clients, even if they don't have more work for you. Maybe they have a referral to send your way, or they have a recommendation, or they can, help you out in some way. So while I was working at Maurice's, that was another part-time management job because I was going to school full-time. And this is also when I started freelancing. So I was on LinkedIn. I saw this job posting for this blog writer. I had always had a personal blog for myself. And so I applied to it. It turned out to be an Upwork job, and I worked for them for $20 a blog post for maybe 6 months or so. And then the editor of that blog started her own social media company, and she hired me on to become a social media copywriter. Freelance, of course, that was very part-time. I wasn't making a ton of money or anything. But I learned everything. I think the biggest thing that I learned was that freelancing can actually make you money, and it is a real job. You know what I mean? I actually ended up quitting my job at Maurice's because I was freelancing. Freelancing enabled me to do that. I grew up without a lot of money. So when I hear people talk about taking unpaid internships, that's just something I cannot even relate to. And I got the opportunity to get an internship. It was paid, but it was paying me less than a management job would have. I wouldn't have been able to take that internship if I didn't have another revenue stream coming in, and freelancing was that for me. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned was oh my gosh, I actually can make a few $100 extra to make this internship possible for me. So the internship was at a scholarship. It was my scholarship that I went to school on, and that was my first office job. So just the idea of sending emails and using a scanner, which I still don't really know how to do, just office etiquette was completely new to me. And I made some mistakes for sure. And I also remember telling my mom this, when I had that job, one of the craziest things about that job was that I was being paid to think. Being in retail and being in the restaurant industry, I was so used to my value coming from output. Okay, how many items did you sell? How many things did you clean or merchandise or reorganize? Whereas at this scholarship, they were yeah, come up with some ideas. And I'm sitting here for 6 hours and I haven't done anything. I've only brainstormed, and they're yeah, this is great. And it was such a weird experience, but it was so important to learn that because I think it's a learning curve. You know what I mean? It was a great job. I still love my boss there. He's great. So then after that, I graduated college and I got my first real job at an automotive company here in Detroit. I got 11 days or 13 days or something like that to move across the state. So I had to figure that out. I had to figure out how to come up with the money to move, how to find an apartment, all of that stuff. Biggest thing that I really learned there was sales. So I worked for an automotive company in their digital department. And it was basically a glorified call center job, but it was pretty cool because it was all digital. So as opposed to being, on the phone, people are chatting in with us. And our main goal was to refer people to dealerships so that hopefully they would buy a car at the dealership because, you can't really buy cars online. I guess you can now, but it's kind of weird. So again, I always thought I hated sales. I was always quiet and introverted, and I was always just told that that kind of person does not do good at sales, that sales weren't for me. But I actually learned in this job that I was really dang good at getting these leads. I was number 1 or number 2 in my whole department most of the time. Any day of the week, I'd be number 1 through 3. And I got promoted there within a couple of months to be a lead. And so from there, I really shifted from being the lead getter, the lead generator, and the typer to helping other people and developing other people. And I loved that job. I still sometimes really miss this job and would honestly go back. But the bad thing was it was a graveyard shift. Just as a associate, I think my hours were 1 to 10. It was weird. And then when I got promoted, it was even worse. I went to 4 days on, which I thought was going to be amazing. 4 days on, 3 days off. I was yeah, give me those 10-hour shifts. I worked Wednesday through Saturday, I think, something like that, from 12 to 10 or 11. And I just couldn't do it. I really learned like work-life balance is really important to me. Again, if I could do that job Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I would honestly probably consider going back if the pay was right, because it was really fun for me. I really liked teaching people. You know, I really liked training people, but I really learned that work-life balance was just too important for me. I had no social life, and I was starting to get really depressed because the days off that I had, I would have Monday and Tuesday off. Like nobody was around to hang out. And that's something that I still keep in mind today. Like, could I do certain projects? Yeah, like I technically have the time, but am I willing to sacrifice my inner peace for that? I have to definitely make sure that it's worth it in that regard. I actually kind of worked like another full-time job as well. So that's part of the reason the work-life balance was so bad too. But I mean, again, what else was I supposed to do on Mondays and Tuesdays? Like sit around and do nothing? No, I got another job. So I started freelancing again. And a lot of you guys know, maybe if you've been following me for a while, I freelance for a company called Automotive. And they were a startup based out of France. They asked me to start up their US side of things, really. I, along with one other girl, were the main community managers for the US, and we're really the only employees or workers in the US. And so that was really cool because I really took ownership of that role. Even though I had been in leadership positions before, it was like at these big corporations. So I was a leader, but I was very much like a mid-level manager. But at Octoly, I really got a lot of ownership on things. They would really look to me as an expert. That's the cool thing about working at a startup is like my job was community manager, but I was like doing 20 million other things. At any other company, I would have been like I don't know, something way more important sounding. I also learned about the influencer marketing industry from the industry side, which was really valuable. And I also learned about like cross-cultural communication, which is something that I love and that I continue to work with clients around the globe because they were based in France. So I had to like accommodate for time differences, language barriers. I mean, most everyone spoke English and I speak a little bit of French, but there were always going to be things that, maybe got lost in translation and things like that. So definitely a very valuable experience there. And then after that, I left the auto company to work for a staffing company where I got my first official like day job, social media job. And I just learned so much about social, to be honest. I mean, that's my biggest takeaway there. Previous to that, for my freelance clients and things like that, I had done like Facebook ads. But at the staffing company, I worked a lot with LinkedIn because it was a staffing company. So I learned so much about that platform, and it's like one of my favorite social media platforms to this day. And I just learned like a lot of processes, a lot of things, even like at the startup, like at Automotive and at my internship at the scholarship, I was kind of just winging stuff. Like I was doing social, but I was like just making it up. But I learned a lot of processes at this staffing company because it was a corporate company, a Fortune 500 company. So that was cool. I also think I learned about like meeting etiquette at this job because I was really asked to lead a lot of meetings, lead a lot of trainings, lead a lot of conference calls, things like that. So those things are super helpful. Again, it's so surprising to me how many freelancers, because I know this because I hire freelancers and I work with them one-on-one too, sometimes don't know how to, send a calendar invite, or don't know how to lead a conference call, or don't know how to talk to some of these like high level executives and things like that. And I feel like pretty comfortable with that. And I would definitely credit that to my experience at the staffing company. So those are all the jobs I think that I've ever had, or at least all the big ones. Like I said, every single one of them for the most part has given me some type of experience that I can pull out and apply to freelancing. And I think that there's a way that you can kind of craft those stories to relate to what you're doing now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was interesting. And I hope that most of all, it was helpful. Let me know in the comments down below if you've had any similar experiences, or maybe if you've done something totally different. I'd love to hear how that relates to your freelancing journey if you're freelancing now. And of course, don't forget to check out the sponsor of today's video, about.us. I'm gonna leave their link down in the description box. Again, I think building like a personal portfolio site, a business site is so important if you're looking to freelance, and that can be a great place to put some of these job experiences and kind of share your resume and things like that. So having the .us web address I think is a great idea and definitely could be a good fit for a portfolio. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to thumbs up the video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel and put that bell notification on as well. I will be uploading a lot more. I took a little bit of a break, but I'm back. I swear I'm back on my game once a week at least. I'm hoping to do twice a week. So subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.